price of oil after we go through the significant events and the spectacular penetrations. We haven't seen Jacob Carswell on. If any of you see Jacob Carswell this morning, Danish intelligence officer and Middle East expert extraordinaire, just put it in the chat. I'm looking at the chat, and then I will invite him up. This morning, we have Wajeeh, the gay lion, coming to us from Minneapolis, Minnesota, to give us the dirt and skivvy on what appears to be a Gulf state leaders just dying off left and right. Yesterday was a significant day for people dying off. And that's how we're going to do our banter this morning. Wajeeh, by the way, show me your coffee cup.
Good morning, Chief. How you doing?
I'm Father Mia. You got your blue mug. The blue mug,
Yeah.
when you show me that mug, every time I see it, you know what I think of?
What?
That motherfucker's got genies. And he's
That's
hiding in
right.
that mug. That's your genie mug. All right?
I
Because we
got
all
a
know.
funny story about genies one time, but I'll tell you about it.
Look, I got to tell you something about why genies are blue in 1001 Arabian Nights, because there is in most of those stories, the genies are black. Not joking, which is why they chose Will Smith to play the genie. But it's funny because he didn't play a blue genie. Was he a blue genie? He was a blue genie, right? But there is a technical Arabic reason for why the genie is blue in these stories, because most of the slaves that came throughout the Muslim world came from starting South Sudan and Sudan. And these slaves were brought up through Egypt and distributed throughout various places, or went over to Saudi Arabia and became slaves in places like Mecca and Medina. And this is how the first muezzin, the first man to actually
Was
call
it
Muslims to prayer, was Shu Ismuhu.
Abu Bilal?
Abu Bilal was the first muezzin, was a former slave. And when the Prophet Muhammad made it clear there would be no slavery in Islam, technically there is not. There is no slavery in Islam. He was the first one to call to prayers and say, sing out, there is no
Actually,
God but God. Muhammad's his messenger, come to prayer, come to prayer. But I'm getting
correction.
to, yes, go ahead, please. Khalas.
Islamic correction. Islam said there is a path forward for deslaving people. Islam said there is no difference between عربي ولا أعجمي إلا بالتقوى لا فرق لا there's no difference between Arab or a Westerner or whatever race they are, except by their taqwa, by their faith.
Faith.
But Islam actually made laws and regulations about how to obtain slaves through jihad.
Through jihad. That's different, because they let everybody go and then you could be captured, right? But if you became a Muslim, then you're
Then you're
free.
good to go.
You're good to go. Then you get let go. So anyway, why are genies blue? And because South Sudanese, if you've never seen them, they're really, really dark skinned, very dark skinned. And I'm talking particularly from the south, the Upper Nile area, before you get to Eritrea and Ethiopia, and Tigray, that area down there. They are dark. They're so dark. The ones who were on the camel caravans, the Arabic word that's used in the Sahel for blacks from the sub-Saharan northern Sahel area, where they're black as the ace of spades, as we call it, is Azraqini. Azraqiyun, the blue ones. And they're blue because their skin is so dark, and then with the oil and the pigmentation, it takes a slight blue tint to it, like gun bluing. And I never believed this. I went through Libyan dialect and they taught us this phrase. And then I went to South Sudan, or actually I went to Sudan, and we were dealing with the South Sudan issue. And finally saw what I saw were Azrakini. Really, really, really black to the point of transitioning to a dark sheen of blue on it. So that being said, that is why I think this the in the 1001 Arabian Nights, the slaves that were being brought over from sub-Saharan Africa to the peninsula and then being transitioned throughout, who were, Hassan Chop, right? The big guy, they make him a eunuch, but he's freaking 6'5" and all muscles and a giant scimitar, were blue. The blue ones is how that translates. Now, I'm sure maybe that's etymologically wrong, but in Libya, that's what they say. That's how they define it. So black that they are blue is the phrase that they use. Okay, and then in 1001 Arabian Nights, all genies became blue. By the way, if you think Will Smith's genie was a good rendition of the genie of the lamp, wrong. Worst genie I ever saw, right? And I've seen a genie. Okay. I got this whole story about that watch. Hold on. I got to. The best rendition of any genie I ever saw, including how he was made up and everything, is John Leguizamo, the actor, as the genie of the lamp in the 7-part series of Scheherazade that you can find. I think it was done by British Television in the 1980s. No, the 1990s. And he looks the job. He's got, like you watch, he's got those Fu Manchu eyebrows. He's got long fingernails. He has Arabic inscriptions, tattoos all over his body. I'm like, damn, what genie is that? So
You
there
know,
you go.
Aladdin, Aladdin's cartoon from Disney is actually very offensive for Muslims because when you see the dancing of the genie in one of the videos, they have Arabic scripts on one of the writing, and it was
Uh-huh.
some of the scripts of the Quran. And then the genie takes that and wipes his ass with it.
Voila, I didn't see that. Okay.
No
Well,
one
we'll
paid
have,
attention. No one paid attention to it unless you actually like stop,
except
zoom in, read, and then like go, what the fuck just happened?
except the billion Muslims. Okay, we are at 1,000 viewers now, and I noticed somebody
Yeah.
noticed, so thank you. We've got our live banter out of the way. I am rocking Nespresso cups this morning or this afternoon. I'm on my third double espresso because I did not sleep well on my flight, and it's 80 some odd degrees outside. So that being said, let's talk about what happened yesterday. A
Oh my
lot
God.
happened yesterday. An enormous amount happened yesterday. I kept getting, as a matter of fact, I was sitting in Montreal airport yesterday when Mario Nuafal called me and said, Malcolm, did you hear about that merchant ship that got attacked? And I was like, yeah, I did. Of course. I said, but what you're going to tell me now is that the Americans are attacking. And he goes, the Americans are attacking. Tell me, I said, Mario, the merchant ship got attacked at 5 o'clock, right? Which is like, was attacked earlier in the day. And I said it, we said it on this show. They will attack at 5 o'clock. The fighting will start around 5 o'clock. Not true. The merchant ship was attacked late. Fighting started with the Americans. First, let me talk about the merchant ship that was struck. It was a Cypriot flagged tanker that called the GFS Galaxy. It was struck by the Iranian Revolutionary Guard, not with a loitering drone breaking the windows, not with a Shaheed drone hitting the containers on the top, but by an anti-ship missile that came in and struck the ship 3 feet above the waterline, 1 meter. That's where they fly. They're so low. That's why they are dangerous. It blew up towards the stern of the ship because it tracked the largest part of the ship and exploded in the engine room, starting fires. Omani Coast Guard was notified and started, in effect, a rescue by boats and ordering other ships in the area and helicopters. The ship had one crewman is missing and presumed dead. 33 other sailors were rescued. The ship is now derelict and is no longer operable. I was asked by Mario Nawafal's team at that time, because, guy's got 3.5 million followers. I have a million, I have 1.7 million followers total. So he wants me on. And I said, hey, um, give it a couple of hours and I'll come on at 8 o'clock. And he says, 8 o'clock, why? I said, because between 7:30 and 8 o'clock, we're going to throw a strike at the Iranians. And three, two, one. 7:30, he calls and goes, can you go live right now? The Americans are attacking. I go, of course the Americans are attacking. But I just want to point something out. At 7 p.m. yesterday, between 7 p.m., the American forces were given the order to start attacking Iran. And we knew that this was going to be bigger in scope than the three or the two previous ones. First one was small, second one was medium, was modest, third one was big. This is the fourth round of strikes that have happened in the last 10 days. And this one, like the one yesterday, went from Chabahar, way in the east, up every major air base, every major base and naval base, but all the way up to Ahvaz. But they're in southwest of Tehran. They're not striking the Ahvaz oil field. There are Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps facilities there, including, this was interesting, the IRGC Central Police, or Central Headquarters in Ahvaz. And when they hit police headquarters and places like that, the first thing you think of is they are out to destabilize the regime and they're going to kill the people that are guarding them. So there is something going on that is intelligence based in Ahvaz. And maybe they want to, start a union riot with the oil field workers or something like that. I don't know. But they did carry out strikes around Ahvaz, southwest of Tehran. It's just east of Basra, Iraq. If you go look at a map, at the top of the Persian Gulf, you have Khorram Shah, Bandar Khomeini, you have Qasr, Bubiyan Island, and then you have Basra up in that part, and straight over is Ahvaz. So that being said, by 1930 hours, that's 7:30 p.m. last night, the United States launched multiple waves of airstrikes against Iran. And I know some of you guys go, Malcolm, how come you don't have a Substack live when these things happen? Because we are just back at war. And that's why this is called today the Back at Warcast, because there is no difference between what is happening yesterday and what is happening during the 40-day war, except that they are taking a 12-hour period to do what we call rearm, refuel, reconnaissance, reassess, restrike. We are doing those 5 things. We are just going out there and we are trying to see that. So, yeah, these are the activities that that we that we saw all yesterday evening. And of course, I got called on to that show to explain to everybody what's going on. But there are some significant events that happened afterwards that are impacting the entire scope of this war. When I finished my show at 8:30 last night, he said, "What goes next?" I said, "In 3 hours, Iran's going to hit everybody."
Yep.
Okay. Three, two, one.
So,
Three. Now, why did I say 3 hours? Because 3 hours was 5 a.m. Iran time. And Iran likes to shoot at night, usually between 4 a.m. and 6 a.m. Right. And so they carried out. So Iran
there's a
carried out.
reason.
Yes. Why is that? Don't tell me you've
There,
fed your prayers.
no.
Morning
Uh,
prayer.
it's connected to the morning prayer in Islam. It's believed that if you carry your mission really, really, really early in the day, this is the most successful you will be in out of your whole day. So like and it's related to the Fajr prayer. So if you wake up before Fajr and you do your Iqamat al-Layl, two rak'ahs, or you get going with the intentions of jihad, then you are going with the intentions of success. So you're going really early in the morning. I believe it has also connection to religious bases.
Thanks. Absolutely. Okay. Yeah. Well, of course. But it also could be that they think that it's better to wake up their enemies with ballistic missiles and air raids all across the Middle East and keep them up. And as a matter of fact, I thought that their up tempo against the Israelis with ballistic missiles was designed, in fact, to constantly keep them in a state of anxiety and spending like Ukrainians nights in the bunker, right? So that's the effect that it had. So what did the Iranians do? Well, the Iranians carried out ballistic missile attacks against. Oh, by the way, before I start with the Iranians, the United States announced Central Command that they struck 300 targets. What they
Hmm.
probably mean is 300 data points on the map, including where cruise missiles hit, as opposed to actual targets. But they might have said, hey, there's 10 small boats here. But we
They
saw that.
also they also added that U.S. forces are positioned and prepared to ensure freedom of navigation. And the same sentence.
This is a this is a fantasy. We talked about this for 137 days now. This is a fantasy that they're living in. Where Fantasia, where they think that they can actually control this waterway. And I'm sure they're being assured by Pete Hegseth and General Kane and Admiral Cooper that given the right resources, they could do it. You can't do it. I've been through this SOH a dozen times in peace and in war, and it is too tight an area. Also, by law, it is the law of the sea. It is not it is not an international waterway. It's an internationally recognized waterway, but not a legal waterway. The legal waterway belongs to Oman, 10 point, 12 miles, and Iran, 12 miles. And don't forget, yesterday, Minister Galibaf was in Oman. He was in Muscat, right, to have talks with the Omanis about making the Strait of Hormuz, right, making it a paid waterway, collecting fees and support monies. So by the time he left, the Americans were already attacking. Okay, that being said, there's also reports that Bahrain of all countries, either allowed the Americans to launch ballistic missiles from the HIMARS, High Mobility Multiple Rocket Launch System. They aren't actually, they said the report was ATACMS missile. That's the Advanced Tactical Missile. It's not. It's what we call a PSM, Precision Strike Missile, that we developed to go into these HIMAR launchers. They have ranges of up to 200 miles. The Strait of Hormuz, or not the Strait of Hormuz, the Persian Gulf is only 110 miles straight across from Bahrain. But I don't think it was the Bahrainis firing them. I
No.
think the U.S.
Um,
positioned systems in Bahrain.
I heard, this has kept me up until 12 a.m. In the morning. 12 a.m. And what's interesting is I was in spaces for Arab analysts from the Gulf,
Oh,
and
that's interesting. Tell us about that.
they were basically on one hand they were saying that of course Bahrain had nothing to do with the attack, and the Bahraini government did not attack Iran, and that anyone that is trying to say that Bahrain made that attack is trying to fabricate. I'm using the words that they are using. Fabricate the news to undermine the Bahraini national security.
Why?
I've also heard, because then it's you're pushing propaganda against the Bahraini government to get hit by Iran. And Bahrain has a large Shi'i
No,
community
very
that
large.
migrated from Iran, actually, in one point, and they gave them citizenship because they needed them as workers at some point, and they became Bahraini citizens.
I will tell you this historically, though. I do know for a fact, way back when the first Islamic cult that cropped up, right? The Khawarij. All right. The Khawarij
Yes.
later on transitioned to Shia Islam. No, became the Karamita, and the Karamita were Shia, and they settled in the eastern tribes of Kuwait and Bahrain. But I think that is why they allowed lots and lots of Shia Iranians to come, or Shia Iranian Shia Arabs to come in there. But that ain't helping them now. All I can say is this. Those guys on that chat group, I'm certain were all like, oh no, the sheikhs would never do anything. Like, they're correct. But they apparently have let the US Army do it, because I saw legitimate ass video of a high mobility multiple rocket launch system firing precision strike munitions in the direction of Iran coming from southern Bahrain. So there's truth to the story. What it is who was pulling the trigger? They were American launchers on Bahraini soil pulling the trigger because it's closer. By the way, you can hit the Strait of Hormuz from Bahrain if you are in Bahrain, right? You have the launchers there. You can't hit it from Kuwait. So the Kuwaitis apparently also continue to allow the Americans to use Bubiyan Island, pew, 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 to shoot at the Iranians. And the Iranians did not like it. So the counterattack occurred around 10 p.m. Eastern time, around dawnish, middle of the night, dawnish last night. And Iran counterattacked with strikes on Kuwait. Bahrain rose the stakes by attacking Qatar. U.S. Central Command, remember how I told you aircraft had returned back to the Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar, and Jordan. And Jordan apparently took a bunch of hits, or a bunch of ballistic missiles, and we know that there were multiple hits at that base. The Iranians
I have
claim
a
that the
list of the countries:
okay, khalas, go on.
Jordan, Bahrain, Kuwait, Qatar, and Oman.
Oman, where did Oman get it? Every time,
Oman got it at the refueling tankers that has been refueling U.S. ships.
who got hit down there? Are we talking the same thing? I didn't hear about an attack in Oman. But,
No, no.
but
They attacked
I
the tankers that are filling the
yeah.
U.S. ships.
Oh, okay. Oh, are you talking ashore or at sea?
Oh, no, ashore.
Oh, a fuel tank got it. Oh, an oil, a bunker. We call those words bunkers. Okay, bunker,
Okay.
bunker, bunkerat.
Bankarat. Bankarat.
We're playing Arabic games here. Okay, so anyway, Oman, they threw everybody into the mix. The only people they left off were the Saudis and the Emiratis. Everybody gets it.
Interesting.
Yeah, well, because they're too strong. And it's just not in their national interest at this point. That being said, so what we had yesterday after this show ended and everybody had a nice lunch and a short siesta was the same cycle of stupid, as I like to call it, occur, where the Iranians attack a vessel, the United States goes out of their minds. I don't know if you have the quote from U.S. Army, from Pete Hegseth yesterday. He said, if the Iranians keep doing this, this is the price. This is the price that they will pay. Okay, dude, go take a chill pill. This is, the guy is just a cartoon character, pretending that he is leading the military. The military is doing what it does. Okay, that being said, so the Americans struck Iran, Iran struck everybody. And that's where we are this morning. In addition,
And
flying at
the other thing,
33,000 feet. Hold on, one last thing. In addition, flying at 33,000 feet, news came to me that one of the biggest hawk of war hawks, Senator Lindsey Graham, went off to that great fainting couch in the sky where he can be his true self and live his truth out of the closet. but
ألف
in a,
باء
in a
تاء.
coffin. But
الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم
alhamdulillah,
مالك يوم الدين.
Allah. We said our prayers for him. We said our prayers for him. Wajeeh said extra prayer. He gave him extra prayer. I just gave him all he was due, which is half of a thought. Half of a thought. You can't give him one for the gay half because that one's in the closet.
uh, he had a boyfriend, and we all knew he had a boyfriend, but we
Bro, bro, I lived in Washington. This was like not a boyfriend. Okay, this guy had loads of them, right? K standing for kilos. Look, and if anything, all I know is that I hope he choked on his own hypocrisy, which is another word for penis. So hypocrisy for Republicans. So somebody, Linda Whitey goes, "Who are you talking about?" Senator Lindsey Graham died last night of a sudden, what do they call it? A short and sudden
illness.
illness. That's what the muff. Oh my God, so many people didn't know. Lady Lindsey Graham died that way. Pamela, you want to come sit over here? Yeah, sorry. This is crazy. This is just
Yeah,
crazy.
and guess who else passed away?
Well, yes, and we're getting to that. But first, Lindsey Graham was one of the world's top war hawks for Donald
That's
Trump.
right.
And before this, he was a war hawk with Senator John McCain, right? Somebody called him the senator from Tel Aviv. But he was with John McCain, and he has always been an advocate for war with Iran. And then when he flipped in his ideology, went away from being a serious senator and became just a kiss ass for Donald Trump, he became Trump's third demon on the shoulder, where he was telling everybody, he was pushing Trump to do crazy things, nukes, attack, all of it. He was one of the top three advocates for this war. Marco Rubio, Benjamin Netanyahu, and Lindsey Graham. That's who was on Trump's shoulder all this time. And fireball. Now he's not anything. His influence is nothing. And what's going to happen now is every dirty little thing about that, Lindsey Graham is about to come out, and his entire history of legitimate work in the Senate is now about, we're going to find out what Trump had on him that flipped Lindsey Graham in one 9 set of holes on Trump's golf course. He went in there rabidly anti-Trump and came out of one round of golf being Trump's biggest, staunchest lying advocate, right? So that is going to impact how war is going to be affected, because the Republicans are now down to 52 senators. And because Mitch McConnell, they are clearly covering up for the fact that he had a major health emergency. And I don't know if you guys have seen these things. I was an EMT when I was in the military. And let me tell you something. If we come in lights and sirens, and then we go out with you in a hand carry bag on a stretcher, which is where we roll your body over, I think it's called a reef stretcher. We had a different name for it. And we just carry you out, put you on a stretcher, feet unexposed, not in blankets, not warmed up, not pumping high volume O2 into you with urgency. And then we hang around at the ambulance with the doors open for 5 minutes with your feet exposed, only one attendant who doesn't seem like he's particularly interested in getting in there and taking care of you. And then the ambulance closes the doors and drives away slowly without lights and sirens. That person's dead, or he's brain dead. But I think that he's dead because his staff was seen crying. And what I think is, you have a I hate to say it. Now, in the age of Trump, I'm like a freaking conspiracy theory. He's dead and they're covering it up, or he's brain dead and they're using that technicality where they have him on a respirator and the machine is pumping air into him, even though he's not really alive. He might have,
Like
they said,
Sharon.
yeah, they said the statistic was for a person his age, for them to do CPR, whether a mechanical CPR or manual CPR, the probability of survival is 5%. 5%. So
Mhm.
now Trump is down to 51 senators, including JD Vance coming in for a tie. He has 4 Republican senators who hate his guts right now, who's voting against him. So he has no assistance in this war. None. Things can go very bad now. And all I know about you, all I know is a lot of major people are dying. And that's why I'm keeping those Magnum bottles in the champagne cooler of champagne in the cooler, because we had another significant death, didn't we, Wajeeh? Who in the region passed away that would impact the war
So the current emir has
of which
Qatar is
country?
one of the most the Qatar is one of the most important countries in the world, and it happens to be one of the smallest countries in the world.
Mhm.
And it became one of the most important countries in the world because of one man, and that man is Sheikh Ahmed bin Khalifa Al Thani.
Al Thani. Mhm.
He died as well just a few hours after in the last 6 7 hours that we heard that news. What is striking is that he kicked his father out of power to
Mhm.
get in power
Mhm.
because his father wasn't doing much to improve the country. He transformed the nation into becoming one of the most educated nations in the world, created Al Jazeera,
Mhm.
brought the World Cup to Qatar,
Mhm.
brought the changed the LNG gas, and was one of the founding people of investing in the patent that made LNG into liquid gas, and that made it easier for Qatar to transport gas across the world.
One second, one there. So he died last night along with Lindsey Graham, but somebody just wrote in the chat, Waja, Malcolm, do you have an alibi?
Shut up.
Yes, I was at 33,000 feet over the Atlantic with 400 other witnesses.
Oh my God.
You guys are too funny in this chat. So
He,
anyway, the Sheikh leader and the George Washington of Qatar died this morning. Like you said, about 4 hours ago, I guess. Um,
yes. Few hours ago, the latest update was 2 hours ago. He died about 6 7 hours ago, I believe. But here's the most interesting fact about him. He gave up his power choosingly, and he gave it to his son so he could go retire.
yeah.
No Arab leader has ever done that. No Arab leader has come out saying, you know what? I want to retire and I'm going to give you the baton. I know you're going to do to good. I know you're going to take care of good country. I know you're going to be a good guy. But no, no one has done that before.
Wait a second. Didn't he come to power by throwing his old man over?
Yeah,
I remember this. Okay,
I
I'm
said that
old,
just a
y'all.
minute ago. I just said that a minute ago.
I must I must have been laughing my ass off. But yeah, and then he retires, right? But he forced his dad to retire. Let me tell you something about Qatar. Way back when, long ago and far, far away, back when I was in my 20s, in the 1980s, let me tell you what was in Doha, Qatar. A mud fort, six
That's right.
donkeys, and maybe 20,
Mhm.
30 camels. I'm exaggerating, right? It was a sleepy village. It wasn't even a town. It was a seaport. It was a Dow port. It had very small old cranes. They hadn't discovered natural gas, and they had some oil. They really hadn't exploited oil. When I was in the Navy, we were stationed in Bahrain, right? And Bahrain was relatively modern back then. The Gulf Hotel was the big place, right? The Gulf Airlines Hotel, and because they also had the Gulf Hotel Stewardess School there, so you had all these German and European stewardesses there. And then they would announce on our ship as a diplomatic visit, we are going to Doha, Qatar, and Abu Dhabi. And right now, I'm remembering this. 1985 was the first time I went over there. And I was like, everybody was like, oh, Doha sucks. There was nothing in Doha back then. Nothing. And Abu Dhabi, same way. Now, Dubai had a major port. This is in the 80s, right? It wasn't very well developed, but Dubai had a major port and they had the Meridian Hotel with Pancho Villa's Mexican restaurant where you could buy pitchers of margaritas. So everyone wanted to go to Dubai back then, right? Long story very short. These people, first the Altanis of Qatar and the Zayids, right? The Ibn Zayids of Abu Dhabi transformed these two countries in half of my lifespan into global multi-billion-dollar advanced cities you wouldn't believe. I mean, even Doha for a while was like the smallest of all the new modern cities. I remember when they were building the Islamic Cultural Museum, where they were like buying every antiquity in the Muslim world and bringing it all to Doha into this super
Right.
advanced city.
Wow.
And I thought, and then when I got there, I was like, wow. But at that time, Qatar was still dry. This is just 10 years ago, right? Maybe 12 years ago.
Mhm.
But in the run up to the World Cup, they decided to build like hundreds of billions of dollars worth of infrastructure. New hotels came up everywhere. And then they allowed alcohol. They have the same restrictions, sort of like Dubai. It can be served inside hotel. It cannot be allowed to be seen outside, and you cannot be allowed to be drunk. That was so that people could drink beer at the World Cup, and things like that. But Doha now is a powerhouse because they
Yeah.
decided to take this half and half thing. We'll court the Americans on one side, but we'll be diplomats for everybody else on the other side, which is how you got Hamas. Their headquarters was there. Hezbollah had a place there. Who else? The Taliban. That was their international headquarters. Was Doha, Qatar, and Qatar
Hamas.
wanted to have their fingers in all sides. I said Hamas. They wanted their fingers in everything, you know, and they created Al Jazeera. And I'm going to tell you something about Al Jazeera. They have such, how can I put it? Their depth of coverage of the Muslim world. When I was in Baghdad, we had a suicide bomb. And I remember the second suicide bombing I came to. The first one was the Assassin's Gate. The second one was out near the foreign ministry, right? Before I got there, we were 1 minute away from that place. Al Jazeera was there, and we suspected they had been tipped off and we're already there waiting for the suicide bomb. But if you watch them and you watch the coverage, you get a lot of intelligence you can't get anywhere else.
So the thing is about Al Jazeera that is not you don't see in Western media, and they do it very well, is they hire people, the whole office staff in each country from within that country.
Mm.
So you like in the in you see, for example, CNN, NPR, the big news channels, BBC. They all send their big news brand name individuals to these countries so their face would be recognizable for these Westerners. Al Jazeera doesn't care about that. Al
Mhm.
Jazeera wants people that knows the ins and outs of the insides of each of those countries that they are reporting from with the inside of. So the whole new staff team inside of that country is from within inside of that country. So when
Right.
you are having a news journalist who's an anchor and Qatar is asking questions, you're having a Qatari asking an expert whose sole like purpose is just to give him that expertise, and that's what a lot of people just want, but they're not getting out of Western media.
Mhm. I used to, full disclosure, I've been on Al Jazeera several times this year, right? Because they called me for, maritime things. And when it was all maritime warfare, that's all I was going on. But I don't accept the honorariums that they pay. Al Arabiya is the same way. They do honorariums, and I don't accept them. I tell them to give it to somebody for zakat and for charity, because that would tie me to them. And look, they've got African Americans, and they got Tennessee Coates and others as commentators, paid commentators for Al Jazeera. So, but those are Al Jazeera was a revolutionary news media organization. It was the CNN of the Muslim world, and in their Arabic coverage, if if you want to find out what's really going on, they running with the gangsters. Okay.
Mhm.
It's just like we're talking about Al Qaeda today.
It's like
They were
Vice News.
like Vice. I almost went to Vice. But yeah, it was Vice News. Yeah, running with the gangsters. Yeah, Vice.
Running with the game.
I think Vice was actually dealing in heroin and cocaine at one point. I don't know. I'm just joking, but those guys were neck deep. Some of their journalists had some real coverage. So anyway, somebody made a commentary that they hope that these deaths occur in threes. Well, you've got Mitch McConnell, Lindsey Graham, and like I said, we're waiting to see if the big Kahuna.
Make some
Uh,
dua. Make some dua.
uh, okay, you're going to mix them too. He's saying he's going to be making calls to prayer. He's going to be making some evangelism to ensure that that happens. Okay, let's move on from there. Um, the state of Hormuz. Oh, sorry, the Strait of Hormuz. The IRGC announced this morning it is officially 100% too much. Absolutely, I am positive. You're not going to lie. Closed today. However, the JMIC, the Joint Maritime Information Center, which is dominated by the Americans, right? The ones who created that Omani route, is saying, no, it's completely open. So you will have to take that for what it is. But tanker traffic that is being tracked shows no ships are going through on either the traffic separation scheme and definitely not in the South, right? Getting blowed up and burning tends to have a negative effect on merchant traffic down in the Strait of Hormuz. Okay. One
But
last thing.
but
Yes.
but but Center Command said they were control and they will have access to and they will have freedom of control of navigation in the Strait of Hormuz. What are we supposed to do now? Trump said, "Turn your engines and go." How can we go now?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know. All I can say is that it's big talk, little action. And the people who keep coming up on Substack or not Substack, but on YouTube and TikTok and all these other channels and saying, "Hey, we we're gonna take it. We're gonna force it." You and what army? Okay, y'all better get 100,000 men, and then you better be prepared to fight and hold that for the next 10 years. It'll make Afghanistan look like a Sunday picnic, right? And I mean with clotted cream and those little triangle shaped sandwiches and macaroons. It'll be that pleasant because this won't be. Okay. Worse, it would be the living definition of hell since we would do something stupid like try to force our way in with these 3,000 airborne troops and the 2,000 Marines in August when the temperatures reach 110 degrees in the shade with all of your battle rattle on. And I have done that before. And believe me, it is miserable. And it better have water. Better be sure you bring your own water because they're going to poison the shit out of that water over there. Do not drink bottles of water that you find on the street. or that you see people selling when they give you that special case. Don't do it. Not good. Speaking of which, failures, U.S. Patriot missiles in Jordan at the Muwafaq al Salti Air Base, the Iranians claimed that they were trying to strike the hangars of the MQ-9 Reaper drones, which means they got some great intelligence down there. They claim to have struck those hangars. We saw yesterday that they struck hangars. They said they attacked them again last night. According to news media, or according not news media reports, but actual visual reports, several Patriot interceptors got beat, got defeated, and there were missile impacts on the shore, on the ground, on the
Aren't
ground.
these worth like billions or at least 500 million each?
No, no, their Patriots are worth like 4 to 10 million, depending on what kind of lots and
Okay.
quantities they bought them on. But your job is to stop the missiles, right? Same thing with Kuwait, Bahrain, and Qatar. All of those countries may have taken hits by Patriot missiles. I don't know what's going on. The Iranians do have the technology of what's called a maneuver. Somebody says, oh, for the MQ-9 drone is $330 million. But Iranian ballistic missiles, some of them, is particularly on the Khorramshahr 4, which is the most advanced one they have maneuvering warheads. So as they come down, and the way that you intercept is you just do geometry, right? Missile coming down on this arc will go to this target, and it will always be on that line of bearing. All you have to do is get a point in space where they come together. But a maneuvering warhead comes down and then has a little booster that goes psst, and goes down like that, and your geometry changes. And as you're changing, goes psst, and it goes like this, and then it defeats your seeker and continues on to its target. Which is why we saw so many more hits against Israel this year than in the war 2 years ago. Holy cow. Okay, predictions time, then we'll go to some questions. The questions have been up since like I was on an airplane yesterday. Um, so I predict this cycle of stupid is going to continue today. I know a lot of people have a lot of criticisms about Michael Cohen. I did a podcast with Michael Cohen. I do the only podcasting I do with him now because he does a lot of political stuff. I'm not doing that. I'm doing strictly this war with everybody. But he did write an article that some people thought was positive towards Trump. If there's one thing I can say about Michael Cohen, that man knows Donald Trump. Personal. So you never ignore an intelligence source that has first-hand information about how the thought processes of a crazy crook like Donald Trump goes. And he wrote an assessment of how Trump's negotiating, right? And yeah, okay, Mike might be out for himself. Mike has a whole bunch of other issues. Mike went to prison, y'all. If he's trying to grab a party, I don't know. But all I know is this: he does know how Donald Trump thinks. He knows. Him and Lev Parnas worked with Trump personally. And I know they're on the outs now. I'm not on the outs with anybody, but he knows how Trump thinks. And I read that little article that he wrote where he said Trump is deliberately doing all of this. He views that you have to escalate and punish anything that wavers from the line in how these negotiations should go. And anything that wavers requires escalation. And that tells you that this isn't him just doing this shit on a whim. He's done this every time that they negotiated any building, right? Up escalation, 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 escalation. Where he makes the mistake is he thinks Iran's going to fold. He thinks someone
Mm.
telling him Iran is out of money, they're poor old sand people, all they do is scavenge. And when we take their money, they're on the edge of breaking. Okay, somebody said you don't trust Michael Cohen. I don't care if you don't trust Michael Cohen, but I'm going to tell you as an intelligence professional, on this point he wrote about, he's right. But what he's wrong about was because he didn't have the rest of the analysis was the Iranians don't give a fuck
Mm.
about what Trump's doing. They could have that second, third, 40th cup of tea and nullify his whole strategy. We saw Trump reach desperation when he signed that treaty, that MOU at Versailles. And he said that we were going to go to tank bottom and the US economy was going to collapse in a month. This is how you analyze, even if it's your enemy's doctrine and documents and you don't believe in what they believe. When that was a piece of truth, I could say, hey, that's correct. What Michael doesn't understand is that the Iranians, they're like Deadpool, right? Double fingers up. They don't care. They don't care what your strategy is because they are executing a strategy. And Trump does not like the idea of Iran holding the tempo and the pace of these negotiations. What do you say, Watch?
So there's several things that is very well known about Trump, and he has a lot of habits that he can't let go of. That escalation ladder sounds one of like his earliest habits that he has been doing. Let me get some dirt on you. Let me escalate. Let me find any small hole you could give me so I can undermine. Maybe I'm too close to the mic. Undermine you and make you under my spell for any reason or necessary. He's also very well known for finding voids of information and filling it up with his own information. Remember when he was like, Obama is not a born in the United States. He doesn't, we need his Hawaii birth certificate. Like the idea that Donald Trump always liked to find missing information and filling it up with his information, one falls under the second thing that he likes to find loopholes and likes to find any gap holes so he could expand his benefit any way possible. And the Iranians know that because they have hired psychiatrists and therapists to advise them exactly how they negotiate with Donald Trump. Again, I'm reminding you, Iranians have hired people whose sole job to study the current mental state of the United States president. Like that's I don't know why I don't know why the Democrats and the Republicans haven't done that yet. Like Iranians have gotten that far. Like and meanwhile, you got political parties bowing down to him in the United States, not wanting to understand how to actually treat him or talk to him, and not actually wanting to understand his mental state and only recognizing his threats, not wanting to go deeper is exactly the intelligence flawed all the politicians have been doing in the United States. You're absolutely correct.
Mm, hmm Yeah. Yeah, well, we ain't going to change it here. I just want to point out something. Some people are going, you're loyal to Michael. I'm not loyal to anybody. I'm loyal to one thing and one thing only here the truth, right? The truth shall set you free. By the way, in the US intelligence community, you know where we get most of our information? We steal it. We get it in ways that you don't know about, but we're actually picking your pocket or um, getting information when you talk to your girlfriend or your boo boo or your boyfriend and we use it against you. So any good source of intelligence, a good source of information, you have to process it. You know, I like Lev, I like Michael. They each have their own worlds and agendas, and they both have been to prison, and that's why our show was called Two Felons in a Spot. So, and I was the straight man. But you know what? Those two guys both know Trump. So when they write about Trump, I listen to them. If they have agendas one way or the other, that's on them. I'm not on their show. I'm on my show, right? But when they write the truth, right? Lev does have sources out there. I'm going to tell you, he has crazy sources in that administration
Mhm.
because he's a likable guy. And I like Lev. And people in that administration still like him, right? Somebody says Mike has a new show. I'm only listening right now for intelligence and information that impacts all of us, right? So there you go. But on that point alone, Mike Cohen knows Donald Trump. and he's got his number, but he went to prison for him. So it's not like he didn't have 3 years to think about it. So he did. He actually did. And he learned the value of ramen noodles in a prison, commissary. I didn't, right? I got my ramen noodles from the ship's commissary. Two different types of service. All right, next. Waja, we're gonna go to questions. Do you have access
That's
to
right.
my questions? Because I can't, if I go to them, I will in fact be blanking out this screen. And I know you all want to see my face, right? You know, using Denise is a big word. I'm not using those guys. I
One
just
one
this is
question is about you. This one is from Teresa. She's asking, do you realize how many haters you have on Mario's show?
Oh yeah, if you look, I answered that question. Yeah, but never pay attention to people on X or TikTok. Only pay attention to the commenters on YouTube. I'm like a hero on YouTube on Mario's show. And believe it or not, I mean, I get thousands of positive comments to the one negative one. So let's go on. Just find me two or three about the war, and then what I'll
Uh,
do is I'll get
I'm
back on. I've been
scrolling down.
ans- I've been answering questions on there since way early this morning.
It looks like I've been seeing you responding, so I'm scrolling.
Mhm.
Seeing there's renewed fatwa against Trump, Netanyahu, and even the supreme leader and his aides have elevated their wording to more direct threats against the U.S. How likely is it that there will be a serious escalation between the U.S. and Iran and the region, given these facts?
All that's talk. The decisions that are being made in private. And those are the things, what you're watching and what we're watching with the strikes. I wouldn't doubt today that another merchant ship gets hit, you know? And I kept saying on these major shows that I'm on, I think the Iranians are going to make a point now. I think they're going to sink one. They don't want to just disable, because disabled ships can go right to Karachi, be repaired in 6 months, be resold, and actually at a profit, you know? Um, but on the other hand, a ship that's on fire and sinking, yes, there's going to be awesome ass YouTube video of that, right? So at some point, the Iranians are going to go make a point. I need to make a point out of this. I don't think that it's going to cycle down. I think it's going to cycle up. And I don't know what Trump's thinking is, even though I'm listening to them, that escalation theory that Michael talks about, where he cannot appear to be weak, where he must think that the other side is going to quit. That's a miscalculation on Trump's part. The world economy will break before the Iranians miscalculate.
Someone is asking how vulnerable are we to an attack in the homeland, given the fact that we're currently a lone wolf in the global security stage.
Yeah. Yeah, but Iran's not a attack the United States type country, you know? Um,
They don't even have missiles that can reach the U.S.
yeah, but they're not going to be sending terrorists to the United States. All right. That's a lone lone wolf and non-state organizations like Al Qaeda, ISIS, right? These guys who are really hardcore. Iran is a regional player. That's where they want to play, and they did do attacks. They attacked the Jewish Cultural Center in Buenos Aires, Argentina, killing 100 some odd people. They've carried out assassinations in various places, but they've moved away from that. They are now dominating the region. Why spoil it? So I wouldn't expect anything on the U.S. homeland.
I'm scrolling. Forces delegation after
Hmm.
300 plus targets struck across the three waves, four waves now actually. How much of Iran's conventional navy and missiles capacity actually remains? And is the U.S. campaign designed to destroy capabilities or merely signal resolve?
To the U.S. Navy, they're out to destroy capability, but they're doing it piecemeal, like a little mouse eating at the edge of one giant, you know, container of crackers. You might get one cracker, you might get two crackers, but you know, but Pete Hegseth's like throwing bulls loose in a cracker shop and hope that everything gets smashed. And he does. He knocks over barrels, but the barrels full of crackers don't get crushed, right? He just doesn't seem to understand that. There's resiliency built into a country of 93 million people. And this is all tit for tat. And if the psychology is correct about Trump, that this is just escalation for escalation's sake because he doesn't like to be seen as someone who's not responding. As he says, he doesn't reward evil people with good deeds. He rewards evil people with consequences, which he should know because he has been consequence free his entire life. But he likes to dish it out. He can't take it. One more question, and then I'm going to answer most of these questions online. I've been at them for hours, so especially your commentaries. It's a lot of Lindsey Graham
The
comment.
from Rota. The reported U.S. withdrawal from Rota and
What?
Maroon removes
What?
Rota and remove Ramon. Rota and Ramon.
Hold on, Marone. Um, what? That's the Spanish. That is the U.S. Navy's advanced porting of three Aegis class guided missile destroyers. That's where my spy base was. It wasn't a spy base. It was a naval intelligence facility there. Giant HFDF radio system. We've been in Rota, Spain since the 60s. That relationship is tight. U.S. Naval is Rota, Spain, and let me tell you, the Spanish will be happy because that's a lot of houses. Rota is a tiny little resort village that's empty 95% of the year. The 5% of the year it's not, every person from the city of Sevilla owns those apartments and comes down and rents them. And it goes from 5,000 people to 75,000 people overnight. And it is just party city day and night in Rota. And if the Spanish could get us out of there and get that base back, it's a Spanish Navy base. They get all of our facilities, commissary, Chuck E. Cheese's, Dunkin' Donuts, flight line, maintenance facilities, Navy piers. They have them now. They have an aircraft carrier station there, the Spanish. Spanish Marines will be there, but getting the Americans out of Rota is something that the left wing of the Spanish political parties have wanted forever. And if we do it, Morón is an air base that's just up the road southeast of of Sevilla. We will have done Spain's American haters the biggest work they have. So if we're moving out, I'm going to see that. If that's happening, I'll write a Substack about it because I lived there for 8 years and I loved Rota, Spain. Okay. Well, listen, watch. I'm down to 2% power and we've gone a full hour. So I want to thank everybody for coming to this week's Black Man Spy or today's. And if you're watching this on YouTube, you are watching a recording. We didn't actually get yesterday's recording up. It had an error in it. YouTube is having issues over there. So I will see you all tomorrow right here from Central European time. And we hope that this afternoon at 5 o'clock, when the attacks start again, you will all say, God, that Malcolm, him and Wajeeh, they really know what they're talking about. And hopefully Jacob Carsbo will be back from his luxurious vacation in the Jutland Peninsula. All right. So Wajeeh, see you tomorrow.
I'll send you a
Okay.
collab link for last night video.
Great. All right, everybody. Take care. Go have a cool day. Bye bye.